So, hello everybody, muy buenas a todo el mundo. De nuevo tenemos a Roida, a Teresa, a Samuel y yo mismo. They are going to keep on giving us more inputs to the so ideas that was put forward in the research meeting we have concerning the primer methodologies, the approximations to research, and also to the development of learning ecologies. In particular, so Teresa, who comes from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, she has a lot of experience, both in research and practice in the application of resources and the development of learning ecologies in different scenarios, learning scenarios. So she's going to give us her ideas and her findings. Thank you very much to everybody, by the way.
Thank you. So I should start?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
so the slides.
Okay. Here it goes.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and you're welcome to this presentation, which is a collection of research experiences. The title is Learning Resources and Learning Ecology, Implications for Instructional Design. The aim of the presentation is as one of the activities for Erasmus Mundus Academic Mobility Program under the coordinatorship of Jose Maria Nafrida. Introduction. Learning and learning process have been the concern of every nation. The result of effective learning is a viable workforce that will propel the nation forward. This effectiveness is embedded in learning resources, learning ecology, and instructional design. Learning resources. Learning resources are those resources that facilitate the achievement of learning goals. I know in every educational venture, be it formal, informal, or non-formal education, there is always, you always have goals. And for the achievement of these goals, you think about resources. And these resources are in form of human and non-human or material resources. When we talk about human resources, we are thinking about human beings. You have the professionals and non-professionals, depending on the establishment in question. And for this very discussion, our interest is in educational system. And on the educational system, we have the professionals, we have the non-professionals. Under the professionals, we have highly skilled manpower that work in the establishment in question. These are highly skilled. Like if we take university as an example, in the university, you have the lecturers who are skilled or qualified in their various subject areas. You also have people like the technologies that help in conducting researches and others. Then we have the non-professionals. These non-professionals are those that offer their services for the forward movement of the establishment. Then this takes us to the material or non-human resources. In every establishment, the human resources cannot work in isolation. The non-human resources must be there. And when we think about non-human resources, we think about funds, think about physical facilities, we think about instructional media. The funds must be there for the procurement of the other material resources. And then we have physical facilities, like in the university as we have here. The buildings must be there for the institution to succeed, especially where we are talking about face-to-face learning. And you discover that even in the event of visual learning, there must be once in a while a physical facility where those planning for the visual application must converge in one way or the other. Then we have the media, the instructional media. These are the resources that convey information. And this actually is the most important aspect of human resources when we talk about educational organizations. So this takes us to taxonomy and categorization of these educational media. Different scholars have adopted different types of categorization scheme. But for this particular presentation, I just decided to group these media into two based on timeline. And these two are traditional media and modern media. These traditional media, occasionally they are described as non-projected because most of them do not need projection, electricity, and so on and so forth. But for the modern media, they are most often described as projected because they need source of electricity. And under here, we have this projected and electronic media, which is the main, main thing that is propelling the world today. And my research experience has shown from the beginning of educational system, we have these media are there, and they will continue to be. And most researchers today, we look towards technology. The older media are still there, and we cannot push them away. Like for today, in today's classroom, once in a while, the facilitator or the teacher still need to maybe demonstrate in ordinary chalkboard, blackboard, or occasionally you need to demonstrate with really the real thing. Like you are a science teacher is teaching about flower, the concept of flower. You mustn't use a computer in order to teach the concept of flower. When you have flowers in the environment, you can always use them, and they form the main object, the real object. There are other resources, charts, boards, display board, and so all these are categorized as traditional media. They are still there, and they are not dysfunctional. Then we talk about the modern media, projected media, electronic media. Under here, we talk about the films, the videos, the radios, the televisions, the computers, and other various aspects of information and communication technology resources. And you discover that these resources are the things that are actually propelling most systems today. And the idea is that as the world changes, people within it will change with it. So the world is moving very fast technologically, and the educational system is trying to fit into that system. So this brings us to the learning concept of learning resources and learning ecology. Learning resources and learning ecology. You know, when we talk about learning ecology, we bring in the ecological metaphor. In biology, we talk about ecology as the interrelationship between man and his environment, or living and non-living in a particular environment. Or you talk about collection of habitats or niches, you know, in a particular environment. And in that traditional concept, you have these habitats in a particular environment trying to relate in one way or the other, interdependence, and all are striving towards equilibrium. And you discover that with the concept of technology, that most of these niches, ecological systems that have originally well-established words, so to say, some of these are being dismantled in order to quicken the interdependence and interrelationship among members of a particular group. So when we talk about learning ecologies, you discover that trying to apply the ecology to the learning system, many scholars, many researchers have attempted to give a description or a definition or a conceptualization in different ways. Like Siemens 2007 see it from the angle of space, and Baron 2006 sees from the angle of space and content, while Lemke 2000 look at it from the angle of process, and Barab and Raw 2006 look at it from the concept of networks of affordances, while Zimmerman 2000 look at it from the concept of self-realization. And analytically, you discover that all these conceptualizations have a meeting point, and that the meeting points are the learners, the resources, and the relationship or interdependence. Then we look at technology and learning ecologies. The most current conceptualizations of learning ecology are trending towards technologies, their affordances, and learning process. Many have the view that technology has the potential to alter learning ecology, and this has led to the development of different technology learning environments. You see today, because the educational system is gradually moving towards virtual environments where learners can stay anywhere to learn, where you are not pinned down to a particular setting. Different learning course management systems are being developed by different people. But the worry of many educators is that some of the time, the idea is more on the technology instead of the content. And this is the worry that is introducing the concept of design, learning design. Because for any learning ecology to be viable, it must be properly designed to meet the needs of those it is designed for. So views of authors, many authors, both those in a pure education and those in a pure science like engineering, computer science, and so on and so forth, they have researchers are going on. And many are of both in education and others are of the view that technology has the potential to move the learning process forward. But the thing is, how has it been done? How is it doing it? And one of the, I have just one quotation here of the view of a particular university. It said, for more than 3 decades, we have heard educators and technologists making a case for the transformative power of technology in learning. However, despite the rhetoric in many sites and many ways, education is still relatively untouched by technology. Even when technologies are introduced, the changes sometimes seem insignificant and the results seem disappointing. This is the view of University of Illinois. And this, they are trying to, this quotation, I see it as a way of advertising their own technology sites to show that there is something different in the way they organize their own. And I believe that with this in mind, if they actually address it this way, and others try to have that concept that technology has that ability to transform learning systems, but the impact is not yet being fully felt by the society. Then we talk about individual. We can, when in the attempt to look at learning ecology, we talk about individual learning ecologies and collective learning ecologies. When an individual is trying to address his learning process from the concept of, from the individualistic concept, we look at it as individual learning ecologies. But where a particular group is being addressed, we talk about collective learning ecology. And both individual and collective learning ecology, when put together, propels the learning process faster and forward. And this brings us to the challenge for developing a learning ecology. As we have seen, people learn through a variety of resources and activities. Just as from the introduction I made, in every environment, you have different resources, and you have different individuals, and they have different needs. So the challenge for developing a learning ecology is to define and create an environment that balances the many resources and methods people may apply to their learning. The design and creation of a learning ecology cannot be done arbitrarily. There is need for a fundamental design theory, and that is the view of many scholars today. And when we talk about design theory, there are so many design theories, so many. Even though when you analyze so many of these theories, you see that there is always a meeting point. When it comes to something like designing a technological learning environment, most of the time, the most popular is ADI process: analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. So we said, considering the digital nature of the world today, the participatory need for effective application, because when we talk about this digital world, the learners must show interest and they must be involved. And that is what we talk about participatory, because when learners are involved in the management of their learning ecologies, the application, their interest becomes more stimulated. So we say that considering the digital nature of the world today, the participatory need for effective application, and the workforce requirements, because when you talk about a system, there must be interest in the workforce. What will your learners do after having that learning experience? Will they be found functional in the workplace? It is very, very important. So we said, considering the digital nature of the world today, the participatory need for effective application, and the workforce requirements, many researchers are advocating for social constructivist theory as one of the major hubs for effective instructional design in the context of application of learning ecology. So the social constructivist theory, their interest is in making learners conscious of their environment, to make use of what they have, to be part of the environment, to be involved in meaningful learning, unlike what we have years back, rote learning, facts that do not have meanings to the learners, but the constructivist theory is emphasizing on meaningful learning. And this meaningful learning usually takes place more effectively in a social environment where there is proper interaction among the learners, between the learners and the facilitators, between the learners, the learning process, and the learning resources. Then conclusion. In conclusion, I said the digital world is moving very fast, very, very fast indeed. And innovative teaching, learning and learning design are seriously being advocated. And the meeting point is the curriculum, which is very, very important. For effectiveness, formal curriculum is essential, and the curriculum should be allowed to drive technology and not the other way around. Because when technology drives the curriculum, it leads to non-professionalization. But where the curriculum is allowed to drive technology, then we will be gearing towards producing viable manpower that will show enough professionalism in the system. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. So we have now okay. So thank you very much, Teresa, for a very interesting and very clear presentation.
Okay.
I think you have, Roida, something to say. Do you have?
Oh, sorry. You talked about the resources in the teaching and learning. And I think you are referring to learning ecology.
You want me to answer?
No, I haven't yet asked you the question. My question is, why is the impact of using technology not felt in the education?
Not felt.
Not felt. Okay. Okay. We are not saying categorically that the impact of using technology is not felt, but the emphasis is that today, many people are coming from other areas trying to develop courses or learning resources for the educational system without proper need assessment, without proper visits to the curriculum, because the technology cannot work in a vacuum. It must have a pinning point, which is the curriculum. So that is in trying to develop a learning ecology or a learning system, one has to study like the subject in question and the system in question and the learners in question to know what they need, what the subject needs, because not the resources required by this subject is the one that is required by the other subject. And even in a particular subject, not the one you need for this topic is the one you need for the other topic. So I don't know whether you get the whether the question is
referring to
in terms of
preparing the resources. Are you referring to the educator or the facilitator, or you're referring to an outsider that is designing?
Okay, good. Very interesting question. You know, previously, the educational system is managed purely by the teachers. The teacher becomes the only human resource in question. Today, that expansion has been accepted. An engineer can develop a learning resource, but it must be in conjunction with the teacher. But for you to just accept whatever you see in the market and say that the learners will gain from this is outlandish. There is need for proper coming together of those concerned in trying to move the educational system forward. Like today, in teaching, I'm not purely in I'm not in computer science, I'm not in engineering, but I am an educational technologist. When a particular learning system is designed, I have to evaluate it to see whether this is suitable for the learners I am managing, so that there is need for the educators to advise the technologists on what they are pushing into the market for the educational system. Because today, commercialization is trying to overtake the educational system. Many people are interested in developing learning environments without judging the suitability of this environment to the educational system in question.
Thanks. Thank you very much. If that's the case, then we may not worry about the outsiders, because the teacher or the educator is in control of the class and the resources. Now, my next question is, no matter how good is a teaching resource, it will never take the place of the educator, because the educator is in control and he knows what is supposed to be taught and how the resources should be used and which is the best resource. My question is, you have talked about, you mentioned the social constructivist theory that is talking of interaction of students and interaction of students with a facilitator. How can technology, which has come up, projected technology, be used to meet the students' needs, where they can construct their own learning in the virtual environment, where the facilitator is not there?
Thank you very much. You know, when you look at so many of these course management systems, good ones are embedded with resources and activities. Like for every learning environment, the facilitator must be there, must have accepted that particular environment because he develops the content. And in the process of developing the content, you must have aspects of resources you want to use and the activities you want students to undergo. So accessibility is very, very important. Like most management systems, for interaction, you have wikis, you have blogs, you have a forum, you have chat, you have discussion. These are aspects of social interaction among students, between teachers and the student. Some of these interactions take place synchronously, some asynchronously, depending on the system.
You have not answered my question. My question is, in the virtual environment, you are not there as the educator.
Yes.
It's the student who's there. And I'm looking at technology, projected technology.
Yes.
How does social constructivism being used? Because I don't see it there.
That's what I'm saying. The point there is on interaction, making students to interact among themselves, between them and the learning system. Because the emphasis there, what are the resources for this interaction? And these are what I have listed. You can use wikis, you can use blogs, you can use forum, where students are allowed to make inputs, say their minds, others will critique and add their own. The teacher will evaluate, also make his own inputs and analyze. So the essence, the important thing we are mentioning to this effect is that there is still need for the teacher to moderate, the facilitator to moderate these things. That is the point we in educational technology are making. Moderation is very, very important because at times, such a visual interaction, if you allow it, it may go unending, removing the mind of the learners from the content
Something else.
to something else.
Mm-hmm.
They may face a manipulation of technology. Every day, information are sent by blogs, wikis, forum, and they may keep discussing maybe things that are not even in line with the content. And that is the need for moderation from the facilitator. And that is why the objective, the goal of every learning must be quite streamlined at the beginning in the development, and that is the function of instructional design.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you want?
Well, okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. Yeah, I will try to make a question. Well, historically, well, you can see education as a business, right? Some people use it like that, or as a social service. For example, education during for example, the Middle Age could be only for a very few, right? Not everybody could afford, for example, a book, just a book. Now, with the advance of technology, more and more people had access to educational resources. But now with the new technologies, we are facing also a social problem. In every country, richer, poorer, in every country, more developed or less developed, maybe technology, if it's not well managed, could increase the gap between poor or working class students, learner, who has not full access to technology because it's not affordable for them or for their families, or even for their educational institutions in their areas, right? And the richer or the high class students, right? How can we face this problem and solve it?
Okay. It's it's a national problem, a world problem, and different nations are trying to find ways of addressing their own problem. And that is why the emphasis is on collective learning ecology. In developing any learning system, that the developers must, first of all, find out the goals, come down to the needs, the aims, and objectives. And in doing that, they have to carry everybody along. And that is why the emphasis, like in developing nations, you don't just stumble into most learning environments when you know that the facilities are not there. If you develop a content online and your learners are not accessible to them, you are not making any moves. And likewise, I have continued to say that, you know, when you look at learning methodology, we say that lecture method, that is about the oldest teaching method. And in the process of research, many of us tend to criticize lecture method, that it is teacher-centered, not learner-centered, this and that. Instead, we are advocating for more technological methods. And you discover that some of these more technological methods are worse than lecture method. For example, a teacher teaching with PowerPoint and developed maybe about 20 slides and just continue striking on the slides at the end, the lecture has ended. Has he made any impact? He has not. That is worse than a lecture method. Or you are developing content. You discover most of the course management systems today, they have problems. Many of them have serious problems. Many of them are not properly developed. And you know, we are moving from the era of Web 1.0 to Web 2.0, where there is need for interaction. And you discover that after the emphasis on Web 2.0, still many of the students may not have access. And it becomes another serious problem. So that for any nation, before you will accept any particular course management system, whole and entire, you must make sure that you are ready for it. Because it doesn't mean that it has much advantage over others. And that takes us to that assertion by the University of Illinois,
Yeah, so thank you very much. I would like to make a couple of comments. I think we have touched a couple of the most important concerns we have regarding the development of the learning ecologies in our project and beyond. And it's on the one hand that the communication technologies as they are developed, they lack so the capability of bringing about what human communication actually needs. So the information and communication technologies, what they supposed to do is not exactly what they are doing. In a manner, we can see that since the 19th century, we have been hearing all the time that communication is going to be the solution. Communication technologies is going to be the solution of every social issues. And then we have forgotten, since the myth of the 19th century, many social issues, many social goals, utopias, and so on. So like the social utopias would have been transformed into a kind of communicational utopia. So like the kind of goal that it's enough because afterwards we are going to achieve everything else. That's one point, but the other point concerns the market. So you have been mentioning about the capabilities of the development of the market, and what you have been pointed is very interesting because the real question is whether we can leave that in hands of the developments of markets. So so our societies, so the capitalist societies are very much they have developed very much the picture that markets are going to solve all the problems, but as far as we know, so behind the markets there are always some intentions, always some interest, and within those interests are not the interests of many people. So instead of thinking in markets, maybe we have to think in social systems, and then we have a kind of important basic opposition between what the market can really bring about, and we are in our current moment, we are in the side that technology is mostly driven by markets and the corporations that are driving the markets, whereas on the other side, in opposition to that, then we have the need to develop the social systems. So for education, the point is completely clear. So whether we have to take care of one point or the other. So thank you very much. I think that was a very, very interesting presentation, very interesting discussion. So we all are very grateful to you for. So Teresa, Roida, Samuel, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And hope to have you soon back in Spain, or that we go to your places.
Okay, thank you very much.